Friends, Namaskar and good evening. Welcome to this weekly briefing. I'll start with an update on the Vande Bharat mission. As on 19th August 2020, 11.23 lakh Indians stranded abroad have been repatriated by different modes under this mission. In the ongoing phase 5 of Vande Bharat mission, around 500 international flights and 130 domestic feeders have been operated so far from 22 different countries, and they reach 23 airports across India. Around 375 more international flights are scheduled to be operated by the end of this month. Based on a continuous assessment of demand received from our missions, flights have been added for repatriation from Kuwait, Maldives, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Australia, UK and Canada. In addition, a number of flights from other GCC countries have been further augmented. Coming on to the bilateral air bubbles, you would be aware that arrangements with the US, Canada, UK, France, Germany, UAE, Qatar and Maldives are functioning well. You would have also seen the announcement by our Minister of Civil Aviation earlier this week that negotiations on air travel arrangements with 18 more countries are presently underway. These countries are Australia, Italy, Japan, New Zealand, Nigeria, Bahrain, Israel, Kenya, Philippines, Russia, Singapore, South Korea, Thailand, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Nepal and Sri Lanka. So these arrangements, they will benefit stranded Indians and nationals of these countries. This was by way of the update. Now we'll move on to your questions. So Yatin, if you could take over please.
So first question is from Balagopal from Mathrubhumi. Any update on Kerala gold smuggling case? Has the UAE government shared its investigation findings with India? Prashant from Asianet has asked, it has been revealed that UAE consulate officials and some persons accused in the gold smuggling case received commission from a housing project in Kerala done with the aid of the Red Crescent of UAE. Whether MEA's consent was taken for receiving huge aid from Red Crescent, which is a foreign organization. Has UAE responded to our request for questioning the officials?
Well, Prashant and Balagopal, I have responded to this earlier. I have no further updates as of now. You would recall that I had said the matter is under investigation of NIA, and as far as MEA is concerned, we are extending all necessary facilitation.
Next set of question is on Shri Kulbhushan Jadhav. Siddhant from Vion has asked, Pakistan has said India wants an Indian lawyer in the Kulbhushan case, but Pakistan would allow only the lawyer practicing in Pakistan. Any reaction? Madhurendra from News Nation has asked, Kulbhushan Jadhav case में भारत की ओर से क्या progress है? Maha from CNN News 18 has asked, has India been able to appoint a lawyer for Kulbhushan Jadhav? What is the progress in the case? Shrinjoy from Times Now has asked, any new initiative to get Kulbhushan Jadhav back? Is India looking to go to the ICJ as the legal proceedings in Pakistan have not inspired any confidence?
On this issue, we are in touch with Pakistan through diplomatic channels. We believe for a free and fair trial in keeping with the letter and spirit of the ICJ judgment, we have asked that Sri Jadhav be represented through an Indian lawyer. However, it is important that Pakistan needs to address the core issues, and as I have said earlier, these core issues involve providing all the necessary documents in this case, as well as providing unimpeded consular access to Sri Jadhav.
Next set of question is on Nepal. Nainima from The Print has asked, Nepali media reports suggest border talks between New Delhi and Kathmandu will happen soon. Can the MEA throw some light on this? Deepak Ranjan from PTI Bhasha has asked, नेपाल और भारत के बीच हाल के उच्च स्तरीय संवाद के क्या निहितार्थ थे? इसके क्या परिणाम सामने आए हैं? The similar questions have been asked by Siddhant from Vion, Anish from UNI, Madhurendra from News Nation and Suhasini from The Hindu.
Look, on the India-Nepal boundary issue, I have already made our position very clear in previous briefings. So I have nothing further to add on this. But to respond specifically to Deepak Ranjan from PTI Bhasha, I think your question is regarding the recent meeting of the oversight mechanism. Now, this is a bilateral oversight mechanism which was established in 2016 between the two sides. Regarding the outcome of this meeting, you would have seen the press release which was issued by our embassy in Kathmandu. This meeting is a part of our regular consultations, and as a part of the mandate of this particular mechanism, there was a comprehensive review of all our bilateral projects.
Next set of question is on Bangladesh. Nainima from the print has asked, did Bangladesh PM Sheikh Hasina raise the issue of Tista water sharing, CA and NRC with Foreign Secretary Shingla during his visit? दीपक रंजन फ्रॉम पीटीआई भाषा हैज़ आस्क, बांग्लादेश की भारत के विदेश सचिव की यात्रा में किन मुख्य बिंदुओं पर चर्चा हुई, इसमें किन किन बातों पर सहमति बनी? अनिश फ्रॉम यूएनआई हैज़ आस्क, Foreign Secretary Harsh Shingla has returned from Bangladesh yesterday. Could you share some details of his meeting with hierarchies in Dhaka? Akhilesh Suman from Rajya Sabha TV has asked, Foreign Secretary was in Dhaka for 2 days. Can you please share the outcome of the visit? Jay Prakash from Dainik Jagran has asked, what was the major discussion point between Foreign Secretary and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina? Similar questions are also asked by Sumit Sharma from Asia Times and Madhurendra from News Nation.
Regarding the outcomes of the visit, I have some details. As you would know, Foreign Secretary visited Bangladesh on 18th and 19th of August, and during his visit, he called on the Prime Minister, Her Excellency Sheikh Hasina, on the 18th of August. Discussions during this meeting centered on the importance of the 100th birth anniversary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman from March 2020 to March 2021, and the 50 years of the liberation of Bangladesh, as well as the establishment of diplomatic ties between India and Bangladesh in 2021. India plans to issue a commemorative stamp on Bangabandhu during Mujib Barsho. The two countries also propose to hold joint events on the occasion. You would also recall that our Prime Minister had paid tributes to Bangabandhu through a video message in the inaugural Mujib Barsho celebrations in March. Both sides during this visit, they also discussed the COVID-19 situation. We have provided COVID-related assistance to Bangladesh and have also organized capacity building courses for Bangladesh medical personnel. This was following the video conference of SAARC leaders and the creation of the SAARC Emergency Response Fund. Bangladesh has already committed about $1.5 million to this fund. FS, during his meeting with PM Hasina, also informed about India's efforts towards COVID-19 vaccine development and distribution. Both sides agreed to continue their discussions in the area of vaccines and therapeutics. Another significant area of discussion was India's development assistance in Bangladesh, as also the projects in the area of connectivity and power. Several of these projects, including the Rampal Maitri power plant, the India-Bangladesh Friendship Pipeline, and rail links between Akhora Agartala and Chilahati Haldibari, as well as Khulna Mongla, are expected to be completed next year. It was proposed that the next meeting of the Joint Consultative Commission at the level of foreign ministers should be convened shortly to review the entire gamut of bilateral relationship, including these projects. It was also proposed that a high-level monitoring mechanism be set up to regularly review progress of the ongoing projects. Our proposal to launch a travel air bubble between the two countries, opening limited flights for official business and medical travelers, was appreciated by the Bangladeshi side. There were discussions relating to cooperation in the area of security, including fencing and joint efforts to prevent trans-border crimes. The issue of safe repatriation of internally displaced persons from Rakhine State also came up for discussion. During the visit, Foreign Secretary also met Bangladesh Foreign Secretary Mr. Masood bin Momen and comprehensively discussed all issues of bilateral interest. FS also invited the Bangladesh Foreign Secretary to visit India at his earliest convenience. In the last few years, India and Bangladesh have amicably resolved complex issues, including the land and maritime borders, and have taken several initiatives to boost connectivity and trade, including commencement of movement of Indian cargo from Agartala to Kolkata via Chattogram, expansion of the scope of protocol that governs trade and transit on inland waterways, gifting of 10 locomotives to Bangladesh recently, and introduction of parcel and container train services between the two countries. Therefore, this visit was useful in discussing specific initiatives in several key areas of mutual interest. It also reflects the priority that India accords to Bangladesh as part of its neighborhood first policy. The top leadership of the two countries have remained in regular touch. That has helped sustain the momentum in bilateral ties. And Nainima, to specifically respond to your question, those issues that you mentioned, they were not raised.
Devdeep from Sankei Shimban has asked, some media reports suggested that PM Modi and Japanese PM Abe will have a virtual summit early next month. Is there any possibility of it? Abhishek Dulia from NHK has asked, there are reports of a virtual India-Japan summit in early September. Could you provide further details about the meeting?
See, India and Japan have a regular annual summit, and you would know that the summit was scheduled in December last year and it had got postponed. Thereafter, the two sides are in touch through diplomatic channels, and whenever a date is finalized, we will let you know.
Suhasini from The Hindu has asked, Bangladesh Foreign Secretary said he had raised the condition of Tabligis who are Bangladeshi citizens. What is India's response to them and other countries raising concerns? She also asked, has the MEA asked MHA to expedite legal clearances for Tablighi Jamaat activists from approximately 34 countries still being held in India over COVID-related and visa violation charges?
See, on the Tablighi Jamaat activists, I had said earlier that they have put in a request for plea bargaining, and that request has been accepted by the court. They have been fined and asked to leave the country. As per the information that I have, about 1,030 Tablighi foreigners have been discharged by the courts as on date, and their respective foreign embassies have been informed. Now, of these 1,030, 550 have already left the country. Specifically on Bangladesh, the Bangladesh Foreign Secretary during his meeting with FS acknowledged that most the Tablighis from Bangladesh have returned home, and we will continue to work with the relevant authorities to ensure that others who remain, their return is facilitated.
Prashant from Asianet has asked, is there a consolidated list of Indians died abroad due to COVID-19?
Prashant, I am not aware of any such list.
Suhasini from The Hindu has asked, what kind of collaboration is India discussing with Russian vaccine maker RDIF? Is India confident that all protocols have been followed in clearing the virus for production?
Look, Suhasini, the government has set up a national expert group on vaccine administration for COVID-19. And the purpose of this group is to keep India in the forefront of any ongoing effort worldwide to innovate, prepare, produce and launch candidate vaccines to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this expert group, through the inputs and support of MEA, will connect Indian companies that are interested in any candidate vaccines and facilitate the process of ensuring that relevant testing data is made available to our regulatory agencies. And once this testing data is made available, it is for the regulator to decide on the nature of trials that may be needed before a decision can be taken on the use of any candidate vaccine in India.
So next set of question is on China. Manish Jha from TV9 Bharatvarsh has asked, भारत और चीन के बीच अब तक सैन्य और राजनयिक स्तर के कुल 15 से ज़्यादा बैठक हो चुकी है। इतने प्रयासों में नतीजे बहुत उत्साहवर्धक नहीं है। आखिर बात कहाँ अटक रही है? Nainima from The Print has asked, update on the WMCC meeting please. Anish from UNI has asked, What are the updates on India-China border standoff in eastern Ladakh? Ranjit Kumar from Rakshak News has asked, any fresh consensus or any forward movement to resolve the border issue during WMCC? Sumit Sharma from Asia Times has asked, what is China's stand on withdrawing its troops from various points of intrusion? What was the outcome of today's discussions? Maha from CNN News 18 has asked, at the WMCC format meeting today, what message has India conveyed to China on the stalling of disengagement process in Pangong, Gogra and Depsang? Shrinjoy from Times Now has asked, what has been outcome of today's WMCC meeting? Similar questions have also been asked by Siddhant from WION, Madhurendra from News Nation, Shankar from India vs Disinfo, Akhilesh Suman from Rajya Sabha TV and Sridhar from Asian Age.
I have something to share in terms of today's WMCC meeting. The 18th meeting of the WMCC, which was held earlier today, was led by Joint Secretary East Asia from our side, while the Director General of the Boundary and Oceanic Department of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs led the Chinese delegation. In the meeting, the two sides had a candid and in-depth exchange of views on the existing situation in the India-China border areas. They reaffirmed that in accordance with the agreements reached between the two foreign ministers and the two special representatives, the two sides will continue to sincerely work towards complete disengagement of the troops along the LAC in the western sector. In this context, they agreed to resolve the outstanding issues in an expeditious manner and in accordance with existing agreements and protocols. The two sides were in agreement that restoration of peace and tranquility in the border areas would be essential for the overall development of bilateral relations. The two sides further acknowledged the need to maintain close communication through both the diplomatic and military channels so as to ensure complete disengagement. In this regard, they also agreed to continue their ongoing engagements, including through the meetings of the WMCC. So this is by way of update on today's meeting of the WMCC. Thank you. So this concludes the weekly briefing.